What's up, guys? Let's make one of those really fun money cakes where the money comes out the top of the cake. I ordered this cake off of Amazon, and this is what it comes with. So it comes with this cheesy plastic box here. It's got the hole in the top, and this is how the money comes out. The bags, and this is where you'll put the money in. It comes with 2 adhesive strips there. I don't really know why there's 2. I think there should only be 1, but whatever. This is what it comes with. And then it comes with this little flat piece here. You would stick this with that little stick. You put the stick inside, and then this is how you would end up pulling all the money out of the top of your cake. I ended up not using that stick because I didn't like it. It was a little too flimsy, so I ended up using a cake pop stick, which I can customize myself. But this is how it works. See here, and then you would just pull up and the money comes out. It also came with this little piece of trash, happy birthday sign. It's so flimsy. I didn't use it, but you guys can use it. You would just use little adhesive tabs there and stick it to that stick. So let's get started. So I'm just gonna open up these bags, and then I'm gonna start putting the money inside. So you can see here all the money that I got from my client. I'm starting with the $100 bill. Just gonna get that in there, and then see, this is what I'm talking about, why it has 2 tabs there. When you fold 1 tab over, it's gonna stick anyway. I don't understand why there's 2. So just get all your money inside, and then I'll show you how we attach them all together in a second. Once you get all your money into these little bags here, we're gonna start attaching them together, and I'll show you what it looks like. It kind of looks like this. I wasn't really happy with this kit. I've seen some where there's more of like a gap between each bill, and these almost overlap, so I wasn't really feeling that. And you can see here, here's the 2 adhesives. You peel off both, and then you'll just attach it to the previous one. My advice when you're adding all of your bills together is think about how you want your bills to come out of the cake. For example, I had a lot of 20s, a few 50s, and I think only one $100 bill. I didn't want to put the 100 first because I don't know, I feel like if you see a 100, you're going to expect to see more. So that's why I did a ton of 20s first, and then the 50s, and then the 100s. So it's more of like a shock when you get to the end, and then you get to see the bigger bills. I mean, that's just my preference, but you guys can do it however you want. So after I peeled off the 2 adhesives here, I had to see where the other one was, since it's clear, and then lay the other one on top, and then just make sure you press it pretty good so that both of those adhesives will stick to the previous bunch of your bills. And then here I am just adding the rest of them in time lapse because it's ultra boring. Now all those plastic bags are attached, and you can see how long this money roll is going to be. It looks pretty cool so far. So now we can start rolling it up and putting it in this little plastic box here. This was actually my first money cake. I know, how bold of me to make a whole tutorial for you guys, but I figured it couldn't be that hard. And if there is anyone that's new to cake decorating, I kind of just wanted to see if I can help them out and learn from my mistakes. So the first thing I did is, you can see I have that first 20 sticking out of the top of the box there, and I just wanted to make sure I knew how those bills were going to come out. I did not want them to pull the top of the cake and see the back of the bill. I wanted them to see the front of the bill. That's why you see me keep rolling the bills in that certain direction. And then I peeled off that adhesive strip there, and I folded it over. I really didn't know what else to do here, so I just folded it over. And then the kit comes with like 2 tiny little circle adhesives, which I just thought was not strong enough to hold all these bills. This is what they look like. I did not trust them at all, so I went with good old tape. You want to make sure the first bill comes up through the top of the box, and this way you can tape it to that little flat piece that has the stick on it. I just put a piece of tape on the front and the back. I just wanted to make sure it was super secure so that when they pulled on the stick, all the money would come out and nothing would get stuck inside. All right, I have to test it. I have to make sure all the money's gonna come out and it's gonna look great. and it does. So once you test it, make sure you open that box, re-roll all that money so that it sits nice and right before you add it into your cake. Once your box is all closed, I rolled out some plastic wrap and I'm going to cover this box entirely with plastic wrap. I'm just going to make sure that it's safe to put inside of the cake. So I'm wrapping that up real nice and tight, and then I'm using a little tiny pair of scissors and I'm just cutting around that little rectangle area, and that is where you will pull all of the money out. You need to make sure that part is open so that the money can come out of the cake. Now we are on to the actual cake. So I'm going to start here with a 12-inch cake board, add some buttercream, and start adding my cake layers. These are 8-inch rounds, and I'm just filling them with some strawberry buttercream and some fresh strawberries. If you'll notice, the strawberries are only around the outer rim, and that's because I'm going to cut away the inside of the cake to fit in that box of the money. Make sure you do use a cake that's big enough. These boxes that hold the money, I believe, are about 4 or 5 inches. So you can't put this in a 6-inch cake. It has to be 8 inches at least. Also, when you're carving away room for that box, you're going to have to make sure you go wide enough. So what I did is, after I frosted this entire cake, I put it in the fridge so it got nice and cold. And then once that was ready, I took it out and I was able to measure the top of the cake with the box, and I use a tiny little knife to go around to make sure I carve out a spot big enough for the box to fit inside of the cake. As you can see here, this is an 8-inch cake, and even right now there's not much room at the very corners of the box. So you'll get a good amount of cake on the sides, but where the corners are, there's not much room at all. So you need to make sure you measure properly so that you have enough room to fit this box inside of your cake. After you've measured the box and made the mark alongside the top of the cake, just remove that box and now you can start cutting into your cake. Just be patient because this part does get messy. Your cake can crack, so just take your time with it. Make sure you go far enough down with your knife because you do need to make sure that this box sits inside of your cake and is not popping up on top of your cake. So just go nice and slow and cut around where that box would fit. All right, now I want to show you another angle of the cake. I've already cut down with the knife, but now I need to make sure that the hole is deep enough for this box. So I'm just holding it against the cake and then putting a little mark there for myself just to make sure I go down deep enough. Right now I'm going to use a cookie spatula. It's a metal spatula, it's nice and sharp, and this is so I can make a straight cut going all the way down. So I'm gonna go down to where that mark is, and make sure you're very careful when you pull up. You'll see that the cake does start to crack, which seems to be pretty normal. This is why you wanna do this part, cut out the hole for the box. You want to do this before you decorate your cake because you will completely ruin the outside of your cake. At least if you do it beforehand, we can go in and fix all that. You can see the cracks here. I've got a crack going down. I have a crack going down here. And I have a crack going sideways somewhere. So just be aware that it is going to crack, but we can fix it. Now I'm going to use that cookie spatula to remove the inside center of the cake. And that is a little treat, a little reward for myself I get to eat later. Here I am just making sure that the hole is deep enough for that box. If it's not deep enough, just make sure you go down a little bit deeper and cut out that extra part of the cake. As you can see here, the cake has cracked quite a bit, but look what I'm rewarded with. Get to eat that later. So all these cracks are just going to be filled in with some American buttercream. Once you put it in the fridge for at least a half hour, it'll set up really nicely. All those cracks are going to be filled in, so it's really not a big deal. Plus, this is just the crumb coat. It's not even the final coat of buttercream, so you're good. I added some buttercream inside that hole just to catch all those crumbs, just to make it easier for when I insert the box inside of the cake. I put the cake in the fridge for about 20 minutes before inserting the box, just to make sure it's nice and firm. And right now I just want to make sure the way that the money comes out, the bill is going to be facing you. So I'm just marking a little mark on the board with some buttercream, just so that I know where the front of the cake is going to be. So I'm going to insert this box into the cake. I'm trying to do it carefully, but at the same time I do push down a little bit. You can see that the cake is cracking a tiny bit, but like I said, don't worry, because we are still on the crumb coat. So once you fill those gaps in with some more buttercream, you'll be fine. So I'm re-icing this entire cake with some American buttercream, and this will just be a really nice crumb coat. Make sure you get the top of your cake as well. Just try to leave the area where you're gonna pull the money up. Try to leave that exposed a little bit. We are gonna put some more buttercream on it later. I just don't want too much buttercream right now. Once you put that cake in the fridge, it's gonna harden up, and I don't want it to be too hard to pull that money up. So make sure you leave it exposed for now. All right, and even though I have that little mark of green buttercream here on the top of the board, I don't want to wipe it away by accident, so I put a mark on the bottom of the board as well, just so that I know where the front of my cake is. Now I'm going in with the final coat of buttercream. This is a golf themed cake, so you know I had to go with green. I'm just making sure to add a nice thick layer. It's going to be all smoothed out with the Ester Cake comb, and I'm gonna make sure I add this green buttercream to the top as well. It's okay to get some buttercream on that little rectangular strip on the top. We just don't want too much. We don't want a super thick layer where it's gonna be hard for them to pull up the money out of this cake. I made a flag for the top of the cake. I wanted it to look like, you know, the flag they have on a golf course. So I just used a diamond cutter, and I used my edible glue to glue the two pieces of the fondant together. And then I just made a 31 out of a little mold with some black fondant, glued it all together. And this is on a cake pop stick, and this will be inserted into the very top. I am using a piece of pliers just to help me hold that rectangular piece. I did not want to press too much and, you know, push the box down, or press too much and some of the money starts coming out. So I wanted to be pretty careful. You can see some of that rectangular area is exposed a little bit just from me kind of playing with that little cake pop stick, trying to get it in there perfectly. So I'm just smoothing out the buttercream with a large offset spatula. All right, I let my cake firm up in the fridge for about a half hour. I have some darker green buttercream in a piping bag with a Wilton grass tip number 234. You know I had to come in here and add some grass piping since it is a golf themed cake. I put the cake back in the fridge, and while that's firming up, I'm just putting some fondant into a small letter mold. I'm just going to make a happy birthday sign. Once I have all the letters ready, I work on the sign itself. So I roll out some white gum paste and I put some plastic wrap on top, and I use a circle to cut out the shape. And can you guess what it's supposed to look like? It's supposed to look like a golf ball. I was trying to be like really creative here. I kind of liked how it came out. I wish it was more spherical, I guess, but this will have to do. So I'm using my edible glue to glue all of the fondant letters onto the front, and then I set that aside to dry so I can work on some other fondant decor. I have some black gum paste here that I rolled out. I put a little bit of shortening, and then I put down this shape of a golfer that I printed. It's just on regular paper, but I use it to trace the shape. I put the shortening down, and it just helps to keep your little piece of paper stuck directly to your gum paste or fondant. It really helps so that the image doesn't lift off and you're able to trace it out. I am using a pen blade. You can use any blade that you like. I just really enjoy using pen blades because the tip is nice and long and thin and really sharp. So I cut out these two pieces, and that one snapped a tiny bit. So I just used my edible glue, put it right back together. I inserted some floral wires into them so that they can stand up straight onto the cake, which you will see in a bit. I'm adding my edible glue to that golf ball that I made for the happy birthday sign, and I'm just gonna glue it right to the front of my nice cold cake. I piped a little bit more of that grass buttercream on top before adding the cake toppers. I have the golfer and the little golf bag, and those both have floral wires inserted into them. It just makes it super easy to add to a cake by holding it with a pair of pliers. Once I get those in there, I'm also making a little hole into the cake board. I have a tee and a golf ball that I made out of fondant, and I just want to make sure that they fit on the board. I add a little bit of my edible glue, and then I add that tee back there, and then you can see that there is a toothpick, and this is so that it will stick into the cake board, and then the toothpick also sticks up so that I can add the golf ball that I made out of fondant. I just add a little bit of my edible glue just to make sure it's nice and secure. So this is what the cake looked like when I was finished with it. I thought it came out really great. It looks nice and classy, perfect for a 31st birthday. And you would never really know that money's gonna come out of this golf themed cake. Stay tuned for the money shot.
Happy birthday, dear Gino. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, that's sick. Fun. That's sick.
I love it.
Oh, okay. That's bomb.
That's cool.
That is the cleverest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Tiffany,
That
very
was
good.
clever. That was sick.